So welcome everybody, and I want to introduce my friend and this is a person who you could call a world changer, but even if you didn't call him that, he would, design in his nature to change the world, So I want to introduce Ronnie Landis.
Greetings, aloha everyone, and aloha Christopher. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And Ronnie and I share a couple of things, and it's not age. We both love Hawaii, and it's part of our nature to really help people. It's just built into who we are. And today, this is the first of a series I'm doing where you really strip human design down to what it's really about. Human design till now has been presented in ways that are detailed and intricate, but very attractive to intellectualizing, studying, but not necessarily practical application. Yeah. And so one of the things I'm doing with human design is really, really focused on bringing human design into the real world and people experiencing it and understanding what they're doing through their experience, and then being able to communicate it clearly to the people who can really benefit from what human design has to offer. And one thing I'm clear about, human design is just not another fad. It's a fundamental upgrade in the way you live your life for every human being. It's about how human beings are designed to live elegantly and effectively in the real world. So I'm just throwing this open, and each of these series open to a person I truly respect, have learned a lot from, and are collaborating with to grill me about human design and to get the very best out of me in terms of making human design really easy to understand and relate to people who are making a difference in the world. So Ronnie is right at the forefront of those sort of people. So I'll just throw it over to you, Ronnie.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll just introduce myself super briefly for everyone. I'm I guess you would call a holistic and integrative nutritionist and health messenger of sorts. I'm really what it is for me is actually about human potential, and my profession is in the nutrition and health field, and I use that as a vehicle for expanding the conversation of what human potential can be and what the potential for longevity is, what the potential is for our mental faculties, our intrinsic genius, and activating our genius so we can actually live our full potential on this planet and live as long as we actually want to live while doing what we love to do and feeling good in our body and all that great stuff. So I'm an author, I'm a speaker, and just a driven kind of health entrepreneur, and I love running around the world and proselytizing about all the things that I'm really, really interested in. And what's interesting about that too, in relation to human design, I got introduced to human design, I want to say about 3 years ago, when I was making my rounds in Sedona, Arizona, one of the great vortexes in the States. And I was introduced to it in just a conversation with a friend, and then it started synchronistically kind of popping up on my radar through a number of people that I respected that would just show up serendipitously in my world, as these things do. And one thing led to another, and then about 1.5 years ago, I was turned on to your work, Christopher, on just YouTube, and I saw some of your videos because I think I just got deeper into it at that time. I started to take it more seriously. It started to awaken something inside of me, and I felt like, you know what, there's something here for me, and it's speaking to me, and it's helping me learn about myself in a different way. And and that was a point in my life too, where like the cosmology of the astrology and cosmology was starting to affect me a lot. And I was kind of coming out of my Saturn return. I think I'm still on the tail end of it right now. I'll be 32 in May, so I'm kind of still in that little fine line. So, but the things were getting kind of intense. Let's just say that. And I was trying to make sense of everything, actually, is what it was. And I think a lot of people that get into human design and things of this nature are seeking clarity and are really trying to make sense of some of the subtle energies that are going on. And, one of the things that I find really interesting is that we're having to readjust our perspective of reality. Reality is becoming a little more permeable than it may have been 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we're right. And you can attest to that.
I was alive then.
Right.
I lived through the whole thing, so I know exactly what you're talking about. It's just not the way it was 40 years ago, even for those of us on the cutting edge.
So the tools that we had back then are no longer suited for the innovation of the future, right? Like we need new tools. We need a new textbook, so to speak, on like a roadmap. And so that's how I see human design. It's like a very lucid, yet very practical roadmap when we understand the language. And so that's why I really appreciate the work that, and this is why I think that I really grabbed onto the way that you shared it, because you keep the esotericism in there, which I really love, but you also have a groundedness to the way that you share it, which is the practicality, which is I think what you're wanting to really get across to all the people out there, is that, hey, this isn't like some kind of new age airy fairy kind of thing. Like this is a very practical science that just has a little bit of a learning curve. And if we can learn the language and how that relates to our unique design, we can actually master our life. That's the message that I get from it, is actually about mastery. That's your perspective too?
Yeah, well, that's why we labeled our website Master Your Human Design. And a simple example of, there's a certain mechanics to walking.
Right.
But when you start off as a baby, there's a learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
And then you master it. You've got a skill that's foundational to everything you do in your life. And, if you happen to lose a limb, or you're involved in a war or an accident or something like that, then you have to remaster, maybe with artificial limbs, maybe with mechanical limbs, but you have to remaster that skill. So in a sense, this is walking your talk in the real world in a brand new way. I've never said that before, but it's a really nice way of saying it.
Yeah.
Everybody appreciates what the words, walk your talk in life means. Get real, be who you truly are, and live it. Don't just talk about it and think about it. But the point is, human beings at the moment are going through a fundamental change in the way we live. And part of that is we need to make decisions from a different point, and we can no longer afford to just fit in.
Right.
We've got to bring to the table who we really are. Now, that doesn't sound like much. That's the practical level. But all that other esoteric stuff that people like myself and yourself get into, when it comes down to living in the real world, boils down to that. Turning up as who you really are, not just finding out how you can fit in and get along, or be successful according to other people's ideas, or just fit in with the crowd and become an icon there. But turn up as who you really are and make decisions that actually work, so that you experience, even if the decision doesn't work out, you have no regrets about it.
Right.
And you're not making stupid decisions, which people do regularly.
Yeah, so this is a very result-driven modality. This isn't just kind of shoot and hit and miss and maybe something happens. Like, this is based on generating real results.
Absolutely. But the results are not ones that fit other people's agenda.
Right. Yeah. So that's a very important distinction. Yeah. Okay. So this is good. This will lead me to, and some of the questions that I have for you that you wanted me to kind of flesh out for everybody out there. But that's a great point that I think something just came up for me, is that I think something like human design becomes very powerful when we are on a personal journey to actually learn about ourselves. And I think that's an important kind of disclaimer, right? Like because if we're just trying to fit in, then it's going to be a very hard language or a hard kind of thing to explore. However, if we're genuinely wanting to discover what is our genius, what is our uniqueness, how does this thing, this body and this mind and heart, how does my gut, if you will, how does all that operate? What's my intuition? And we really want to tap into that and understand our authentic expression. My experience is that things just start to kind of pop out, like it just holographically just pops out at me, that it's almost experiential. It's hard to explain, but it's just something like it's an aha moment. But what we're going to dive into is more of like the practicality and the kind of like
well, what in simple terms, it just makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. There you go. Yeah, it just makes sense. Exactly.
Now, if you were saying exactly the same words 100 years ago, the market for this would be a very small group of people.
Right.
Because the world was going along, it was already starting to change quite dramatically if you look at history, but people were still going along doing things the way they'd done it for thousands of years, making the same assumptions, doing things for the same motivations. What's actually happening now is, rather than this being for the few elite who've got the money, the time, or live up in a mountain somewhere to pursue finding themselves, this is like applicable to everybody, because the whole world is changing economically, in business. The whole way we do business is evolving. Look at technology. It's really clear there that, even the way we're communicating now, in 5 years, it'll probably be holographic, literally, and very, very different. Medicine is changing. Human dynamics and interaction is changing, forming new groups, forming teams that, of innovators and entrepreneurs is changing profoundly in the world. And so it's no longer, it's just about, oh yeah, I think I'll take some time out to know myself. It's like, if I don't know who I am, I'm going to miss the boat.
Right. It's absolutely. Yeah. So our new economic system is based on our own authenticity, because there's the beehive mentality can't be readopted. Like there's a different system in place. And that's what I'm really excited about. And with that, let me throw some questions at you about this.
Sure.
So I actually have a few written down questions, but I think I want to dive into kind of leading off of what you just brought up, and the new model of entrepreneurship. I think that's where a lot of people might find a lot of interest in human design, and especially the way that you bring it about. So when it comes to practicality, what are some of the ways that human design, the way that you understand it, can be extremely powerful for entrepreneurs of all types? I'll kind of leave it at that general type of question, and maybe we'll go more specific.
Sure. Okay. Well, we have a program called Human Design for Innovators and Entrepreneurs.
Right.
Very specifically to introduce human design in a very practical way. And I just want to make a distinction that came to me in the shower this morning, thinking of us talking about innovators and entrepreneurs. Innovators bring about internal change. right? They take something and change the inner way it works, or they make changes within themselves and they innovate. Entrepreneurs are about bringing that change into the external world, right? It's a very archetypal difference, actually. Inner change, changing yourself within or changing the system within. An external change, entrepreneurs take it out into the world and through their business and their endeavors, bring this change externally to the world and share it with other people. Okay, now, part of what human design really does is through decision making, it tells you two things. If you make a great decision, it tells you when the energy's right, and even more important, when the timing's right to do anything. Okay, now there's studies being done on startups and entrepreneurial endeavors, looking at what was the crucial factor in the success of one entrepreneurial endeavor versus another. Because the truth is, lots of them don't go anywhere or fail. And what they looked at is, yes, it's important to have the right funding, it's important to have the right people, it's important to have the right idea or a great idea, but at least double importance in terms of which one succeeded and which one failed was timing. Timing was
yeah.
bottom line. I could come up with a great idea for Facebook in 1945 or today. 1945 wasn't needed. Today it's been done.
Right.
So human design through decision making tells you when the energy is right and the timing is right for anything that you're doing. I've got 10 different ideas, big, great ideas. Maybe one or two of them will manifest. The other 8 guide me, inspire me, show me what's possible. Maybe I'll hand them over to you, Ronnie, or someone else. But one or two of them, I need to go, this is the right time and the right place to manifest them. And my decision-making process will tell me, do this one or do that. That's one really great thing, is it tells you as an entrepreneur when the timing's right and the energy's right to do whatever you are thinking of doing. The second thing is this: human design shows you how you're designed to sell and to market. Relatively important things in any entrepreneurial endeavor. All right. Now, we've experimented with that a lot. And what we've found is we've done some of the best internet marketing approaches out there with some of the top people who've got top results.
Yeah.
We even did this lately, and guess what? It was a lot of people were attracted and a lot of people were interested, and when it actually came to sales, crickets.
Wow.
Chirp, 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 right? It was like, that's interesting, right? And out of that, we made some adjustments, which basically was going, thank you for sharing all your perspectives. That's fantastic. And I've learned a lot. Now let's just put it aside and do what comes naturally to me.
Yeah.
And within 2 or 3 days, all of a sudden, a whole bunch of people started booking in. And then we said, oh, let's do that again. Crickets. And it was like, just because something worked a week ago doesn't mean that's the right thing for me to do now.
Right.
And what we're finding is we are literally designing our own marketing program with elements that we've picked up from other people that my decision-making process said yes to, and let go of the other stuff. We're literally not only innovating and entrepreneuring human design, but even innovating and entrepreneuring how we present human design. Now, it's slower, and It's definitely put us through experiences where, what are we going to do with the money? You know, which everybody hits. But working with the process enabled us to make discoveries and to open up possibilities that we would have ignored just following someone else's process. In other words, it became a true innovation, and we created an entrepreneurial business that we love and can live with, and it's got long-term sustainability. And my feeling is this is the way of the entrepreneurs of the future. It's not just finding someone else who's done well doing it their way.
Mm-hmm.
It's going, okay, I can learn from that. I can get something from that. But if I'm really going to present something of real value to the world, it's got to be an expression of who I really am. And then you don't just get one Facebook or one Google or one Apple. You get thousands of them happening all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
In India, in Africa, in Asia, as well as America and Europe and South America. And we don't need just a few great ideas now that work. We need a whole world full of new ideas that really work in the real world for the people that you're meant to share your ideas with. Does that make sense, Ronnie?
Absolutely, yeah. And so to chunk that down even further, so essentially what I'm hearing you say is that from a sales, marketing, and tactical perspective, it's not so much that we take on another person's program that may have worked for them or their clients. Well, there's two things that come up for me that are really interesting. From that perspective, from a coaching perspective, there is a unique synergy that can occur between a coach or a mentor and a client where they're just synced up naturally. So they may have no clue about human design or any of these kind of modalities. They're just energetically synced up, and there's just an alliance there naturally. So, and they're probably, from a human design perspective, they might already be in alignment and have no knowledge of that. So it's just a flow, right? Things just click. And so one person's strategies might naturally work for another person because they're already in flow together. However, if that may not be the case, and we adopt another program that's proven to be successful for other people, it likely won't be successful for us because it doesn't fit our unique design mechanics or our unique proclivities and affinities. And things of that nature. So what I'm hearing is that human design can help us kind of refine closer to either adopting certain strategies that are in alignment with our design mechanics, or we can totally scrap anything else that is not out of alignment, no matter how successful it might be for somebody else, and find what's uniquely speaking to us and apply that, and we are likely to have much more success with it.
Yeah, you get it. And it's not kind of, it's precisely.
Precisely, thank you.
Now, the interesting thing is, occasionally, everything seems to be in alignment and we click.
Right.
And then you go, how did that happen? Oh, well, I guess we've all got, people call it like-minded people.
Right. Or we call it luck, or we just kind of like, oh, that was lucky.
Okay.
And then we glaze over it and don't think about it again.
Exactly. So you miss that possibility. But then with human design, as long as both people with their what's called inner authority, their decision-making process, go, the energy and the timing's right. Okay, because that's the real question. Is it the energy and the timing right for us to work together?
Yeah.
Okay, because if it isn't, don't waste your time waiting for the right timing if that happens ever. But once you go, yes, I am, but we are so different, human design says, fine. Now let's use those differences to create something that's never existed before, called an utterly unique relationship. where the two of you resolve a lot of what normally would be challenges and use them to create incredible integrity and synergy together. In other words, people who are really different, whether it's different cultures, different personalities, different designs, whatever, can actually work together incredibly effectively. And because Daryl and I, my business partner, are very different. We've got the same coloured skin, and one comes from New Zealand and I come from Australia, but we're so different. And it's been at times challenging, but resolving those challenges and using human design to help us do it has created a partnership that's just got so much depth to it and so much potential that we normally wouldn't have realized if we just met each other casually and just, he's different, I'm different, he's interesting, but let's forget it. In other words, any two people who are willing can create an incredible partnership together. And human design tells them not only how to do it, but what's the value to you of doing it.
Got it. Okay, that's perfect. So in essence,
we can finally get along with each other.
Yeah. That's what I was just thinking. So there's the timing aspect. It helps us to pinpoint the right timing. Say that's a relationship timing, that's a project, like you said, an entrepreneurial project or anything really. It's just timing, any way you want to translate that, just timing in our life. Instead of feeling like I need, like a lot of times what can come up is the should, have to, this should happen, this needs to happen, I need to push, this kind of assertive, overt energy, which can be very draining, very adrenally exhausting, very frustrating, and it just doesn't feel good. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with pushing against the natural flow and pushing, and really, and what you said about timing is how I'm just connect that is like, it may not be the right time just yet. So maybe, just maybe, we don't actually have to work so darn hard right now because it's not going to actually help us because the timing's off. So maybe we can actually go and enjoy our life or do something else and come back when the timing's better.
Like, look, for thousands of years, we've made decisions in a particular way, and it's created the impression that life is our enemy.
Right.
And that other people who are different, we need to go to war with if we can't dominate one or the other. Right? And that is no longer necessary. We can literally stop making people our enemies and start and at the same time, not make them join our point of view.
Right.
Allow them to be themselves, which gives us the freedom to be ourselves, and then create true win-win situations. But you can't do it idealistically, which is what people have been doing over the last 10 or 20 years, particularly, maybe 40 years. Oh, let's have this ideal and then it'll all work, you know. And no,
according to the concept in my mind.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas human design says, look, let's do it practically.
Yeah.
Let's put a heart together with a liver, which are really different, and have them work, even though they're different, really effectively together to help us nourish our body, digest our food, and produce an incredible result.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh my God, my heart's not in it, but I'm eating all the best food in the world and my liver's going, oh, well, at least I'm getting what I think I need. And your heart's going, oh, I hate this, but I've got to do it. I'm just using an example. You know, go, okay. How do you really digest food? What sort of environment do you really need to live in?
Yeah.
You know, what do you bring to the table that's natural to you? And what don't you bring to the table that's much easier to let someone else do it?
Yeah. So this is actually what you're saying, Christopher, is some of the best practical advice on how to design our life and how to design a business that we enjoy, or a lifestyle. It's like lifestyle design. And these are all practical strategies, like delegation, for example, and delegating what is not our genius, and empowering somebody that would prefer to do the technical work or the accounting work or the taxes and all that stuff, that it doesn't even make sense for us to do it. It's actually a complete contradiction to our natural design to try to do everything.
Absolutely. Hey, every one of us is designed to do something utterly unique.
Right. Yeah.
So doing everything is ridiculous unless you happen to have a design of doing everything, you know, but no one really does, because it doesn't work that effectively, and it also isolates you.
Yeah. Human design. So from that perspective, it sounds like what you're saying is that human design helps to unite people. It helps bring people together
in ways you can't even imagine. Seriously. One of the things I've discovered, I've had 9 years of this now, and the last couple of years have been just like, I'll give you one very simple example. The more I accept my unique nature and what I'm good at, what I'm no good at, even if I feel, or very vulnerable because I'm no good at that and I think I should be. But the more I actually, not mentally accept it, but just live it, roll with it, you know, recognize, acknowledge and celebrate that about myself. Or recognize, acknowledge and forgive the fact, hey, I'm not great at that. You know, I'm not Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm never going to be.
Right.
Something as simple as that. The more I accept that, the more I find it so much easier to accept people who are different than me. The key to accepting the differences in other people is not getting them to conform to an ideal. It's accepting that you're different. Right. And really knowing that in your experience, in your emotions, in your feelings, in your living. And that changes your mind and opens it to other people having completely different needs than you. And that's okay. And it's nothing, you can't intellectualize that. It's just something that comes out of the experience. I've experienced that myself, and it's like being at the edge of a brand new territory that I've never been in before, where, you know, it's not about aliens, it's about everyone is rather alien to me and I'm alien to them. But for you as a coach, isn't that incredible to be able to realize every single person there's not a cookie cutter approach. Every single person I deal with is utterly unique. And if I can just understand even the beginnings of that, or the essence of that, and then approach them with a unique approach, oh my God, you know, how much better.
It's magic. It's total magic. It's when I'm able to approach people completely uniquely and understand that they are operating on a whole systems perspective, and from every perspective. Health, the body works in a harmonic system. The personality, their dreams, desires, all this kind of stuff, it all works in a holistic manner, and it's unique to the individual. It's as unique as everybody's fingerprint. And so things like human design, I find, amplify one's own uniqueness. It doesn't make them another face in the crowd. It actually it lifts those unique affinities that we all have, and actually makes sense. So this is a very good kind of pivot point, I think, is that my experience is that human design can help us understand our own affinity, our own tendencies, and kind of why what we it helps us understand how we tick. Right. And so sometimes we don't even know why we do things. And so we don't trust ourselves a lot of times because we're not totally sure why we think or feel the way we do. And then when you get a human design reading or you understand it a little bit deeper, you're like, oh, well, okay, now it may not make total sense yet, but somehow it's like, okay, now I kind of understand why I am the way I am. And then you can start to trust yourself. And
experience trusting yourself. And ultimately come out of the closet. Stop trying to pretend you're somebody who you're not. Come out of the closet. Be yourself. And the fascinating thing is, everyone around you might not appreciate it at first because they're used to you being that way. Right. But the benefit to everyone just goes through the roof. Because when you stop doing things you're not designed to do, it stops creating problems for a start. Mm-hmm. When you start doing the things you are designed to do and really experience that benefits you and other people, your self-esteem goes through the roof. Yes. Slowly. Yes. So then you can start to really fall in love with who you are, which gives you the confidence and the self-respect to go out there and do what you're here to do in life. Yes. I saw a beginning of a movie yesterday, and it was a quote from Mark Twain. It said, there are two really important days in your life. The day you were born and the day you discover why. Yep, I've heard this quote. Right, and it's just like, that's exactly what human design is. And it's not like, oh, now I know why I'm here, theoretically. You actually grow out of doing what's not in your best interest and other people's best interests. Yes. Pretending, and you gradually grow into who you really are and what you really have to offer. Oh, it's like, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat it one bite at a time. You grow into your design. It's not this sudden wrenching in your life. So it's incremental. And there are times that are challenging because it stretches you to let go something. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Yep. But then, some people originally in human design said, it's the shattering, and because they'd been through alternative new age versions of emotional release and blah, blah, blah. My experience is, no, it's not. It's far more elegant than anything that I've done before. And I've been around doing this for over 40 years of actually personal human growth and metaphysical blah, blah, blah. Right. This is far more elegant. You can process stuff when the energy and the time's right. And you can grow into it, and you can prepare without even knowing you're preparing. And then when you've processed it, it's done. Yeah. It's done. You don't go backwards. Maybe the growth is slow, but when you there's no going back. It's not like, I got sober and then I fell back again. Like, you sober up, and why would you? It's just like you've lost the desire. Yeah, it's like when in my world, when somebody does like a deep cleanse, or they get like ozone therapy or something that like cleans their blood, and say they've been smoking or drinking for years, and then once they get cleaned out, it's like, and then they can't even have the thought of having a cigarette or something becomes kind of repulsive, because now it's like sobriety, like now, but you've had it on a cellular level, so it's kind of like, oh God, like you kind of get a sense of the old destructive patterns, but you're not really living in it anymore. You're kind of outside of it, observing it, and you kind of know like I could have a cigarette, but then you can taste the old habit where before you were so deep in it that you didn't even, your sensitivity wasn't there. So it's kind of like, beautiful. What I have a lot of interesting experiences that are coming up about what you're saying. It's basically, to shorten it, I feel like what I'm hearing is
the coping mechanisms for living out of alignment start to fall away.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put. Yeah, because we've learned so many strategies for coping with the fact that we don't feel good about ourselves. You know, we don't, I mean, there are moments when you feel uncomfortable and you don't feel good. But life, you know, most of those, unless it's a traumatic accident or something, don't last more than 20 minutes if you really honestly deal with them, right? So, you know, even a difficult phone call to the tax office, or, you know, to your ex, you know, dealing with your ex, or firing a business partner, if it's done cleanly, it's 10, 20 minutes. Know what I mean?
And then it goes away.
Then it goes away. But we've developed all these coping mechanisms mentally to deal with the fact that it doesn't go away. Because we haven't got to the core problem. Now, part of it is, for thousands of years, we've been making decisions with our mind, which is like trying to run your life with your computer. Now, it's not a totally accurate analogy, but it gives you a sense. Again, initially, human design was like, oh, the mind, or what they call the not self, who you're not, but trying desperately to be, and terribly afraid that you'll never be able to be who you're not, which creates massive stress. You know, try doing that. It felt like people said, oh, there's this enemy. No, look, your mind isn't your enemy, nor is you who you're pretending to be your enemy.
I don't want to cut you off, but you just said this is such a critical point, though, because so many people that I know that have been in human design for almost a decade, and they're like really deep into gene keys now and different things, because they feel like a lot of the teachings of human design are very dualistic. And they're almost like and maybe it's from like the raw teachings or the old school teachings, and a lot of them feel like it's not holistic and it's not all inclusive. It's almost like, it's kind of like dualistic or something like that. So I'm curious what your perspectives are on that. It looks like you kind of have see where I'm coming from.
Look, I was one of the original hippies in Australia. Now, you know, I as a young child, I listened to Elvis. As a teenager, I saw the Beatles on stage live. I was one of the original hippies. Now, we changed the world to some extent, right? Now, in most people's lifetimes, that would be a huge change going back in the past. But if I use that language now, right, it's going to sound like old-fashioned and rather adolescent, to be honest, and I'm speaking as one of them, right? Not because it was bad, but because we grew out of that and matured. Well, human design is in a process of maturing. Right? Now, some people have gone, let's stay old school, and there's value in that. And some people go, well, let's get more alternative, and there's value in that. But really, it's neither of those. You know, the person who originated human design did a brilliant job in getting the information structured and put together and out there, and lots of keywords and stuff like that. But everybody listens to the keywords differently. And hears different things, you know. So there's a maturing, there's a growing up that's happening. And, you know, part of what I'm passionate about is being a leading light in that maturity. Because it's human design. It's not alternative design. It's not hippie design. It's not holistic design. It's human.
So it's an evolutionary thing. It doesn't
human beings.
As humans are
highly evolved,
right?
That's like saying, you know, what happened in Brexit in America. It's like, oh, we're the idealists and they're the deplorables. It's no, we're all human beings.
That's right. Yeah.
So eventually we're going to have to get together and work it out, human to human. And just because these people work every day in their life and dig coal doesn't make them any less human than someone who runs seminars. They're still human beings.
Yep.
Right? And we need to work together on that. Well, it's the same thing with human design. Let's make it relatable to human beings in a way that human beings can understand it and it's common sense to them.
Yeah.
Right? And human design, it's just what's happening is an urge to find what's really there. You know, Ra found the mother lode and he dug a lot of gold out of the surface.
Mm-hmm.
But this mother lode goes down thousands of feet. You know, and if you dig in, you'll find really pure gold, really powerful stuff. But each person only needs as much as they need.
Right.
When the timing's right. So how to make it easy for people to see the benefit to them, to relate to the language in words that they understand. I mean, this isn't easy because you have to develop the flexibility of being able to explain things in different ways to different people. When I do a consultation, none of them are ever the same because I'm dealing with a different person, a different person, a different person. And I'm the one who has to be flexible enough to present it, to discover how to present it to them in terms that make sense to them. And it's like, oh, that's what they're talking about with type and what strategy actually is, rather than just all these ideas about what strategy. That's what satisfaction feels like to me, not just the idea of it. And so there's this growth phase that we're going through. No one's right or wrong about it. It's just human design is now in its Saturn return, as you said. 30 years. It's been, you know, it was discovered 30 years ago this year.
Right.
It's now no longer just people parroting what their parents taught to them because they needed 30 years of being in a structure.
Right.
It's now people are ready to go out there and stand up for themselves and experience what their design has to offer them and experience it, not just go to school about it. And then share that experience with other people, and then we learn to work together in a way that actually works. And we recognize that every single human being has a unique design that has true value. And if you get into unmasking that, bringing that out, then all of a sudden humanity's working with more resources than they've ever had access to in the whole history of humanity. And just that is going to, you know, you tell me, Ronnie, has having money in your life versus not having money in your life changed you?
Absolutely.
Right? It changes everybody. Sometimes for the worse, but, you know, in our case, it's for the better.
Yep.
So having access to all these incredibly unique resources that you have, and having access to other people who have extraordinary resources that either complement or add to or bring new dimensions to yours, is that going to change humanity?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the fundamental issues, is that people don't have access to resources, or they don't know how to access the resources, might be another way of putting it. So when people have access and they feel empowered and they feel supported, then all of a sudden there's abundance.
And every single person has an abundance of unique capacities. They've got unique gifts to give and unique ways of receiving the love and support and the inspiration and power of other people. And if they can receive that rather than block it, It just enhances their ability to bring to the table what they have to offer. Now, you put that into the most practical business. I'm not talking about entrepreneurs. I'm talking about the most old-fashioned, old-school business. And you're going to see major benefits. If you bring it into an entrepreneurial or innovative endeavor, all of a sudden, you know, it's not really lack of money that's keeping people in poverty. It's lack of access to their own value.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And in your work, lack of access to knowledge about how they uniquely digest and absorb not only nutrition, which is crucial to not, you know, activating their capacity mentally.
Yes.
And as I said, we're not getting rid of the mind. We're setting it free to do all.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, letting the body be empowered and do what it's designed to do, and allowing the mind to vision, dream, inspire, share your unique perspective, rather than get stuck in one concept, throw so many different concepts out there and allow them to create a synergy together. Which is beneficial.
Yeah. So there's going to be a point in the beginning where you throw in so many things out there that it's like, whoa, okay, you know, it's a lot to take on, and things are falling apart and old paradigms are changing, and you have to go through a little bit of an adjustment phase. However, if you just stick with it and you just kind of ride the waves, it smoothens out, right? And then you get a hang of this whole thing and you realize your design, and you kind of dive into it and you see it manifest in your own life through timing. And all of a sudden, what was kind of like, I don't know how you say, like topsy-turvy, all of a sudden starts to smoothen out. And it's just like anything, right? It's not even that really, like, it's not even that unique of a thing. It's like anything. It's a learning curve. And once you get it, then you get it.
And watch a baby going from crawling to walking.
Right.
And you see everything that you've
It's all the same, similar theme.
Hey, humanity has been crawling for thousands of years. Yeah. And we're so impressed by how much progress we've made with massive collateral damage. Right. But we're so impressed. Imagine if you actually stood up and walked through the world as who you truly are, and everybody else did. How much does a child's world expand once they can walk?
Yeah.
They can go to school. They can chase their mother. You know,
they can go to the next grade.
Absolutely. And human design is no more difficult and challenging, and no less challenging than standing up and learning to walk. But trust me, after 9 years, it's worth, not only is it worth every moment of it made life worth living.
Wow. That's a huge statement.
Now, there are moments I could do without, right? But when you tell the story of my life, just like any story, it's like, well, you know, at least he's not living off in some fairyland. He experiences and it gives you compassion for what other people go through.
Sure.
You know, those uncomfortable times or even painful times have their place. But life was never meant to be as painful as a lot of people experience it now. That's just not, that's what we've created.
Yeah.
Right? And human design, it's not going to bring in some idealistic hippie world, but it's going to bring in a world where we have access to the resources we need to live at a far more elegant level. And in fact, we'll be able to deal with human beings that are coming that today we call autistic. At least that's the first glimpse. they're going to make very little sense to us. But when they work together in groups, just like you saw with Microsoft, Google, the Beatles, when those people come together in groups, oh my God, not just one band changed the world, there'll be thousands of them. And our biggest problem is going to be, can we increase our capacity to enjoy life that much to let it in?
Yes.
I mean, that's going to be a challenge, but I'm up for it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why we're here. And I think that's why this message is here. And I think you and me are uniting in this moment on this message, because it's a message that needs more voices. It needs to be heard. And it is so complementary for all other modalities of conscious unfoldment, meaning the evolution and innovation of what it means to be human and what it means to participate in the growth and evolution of our planet, and just really taking things in a completely different direction than they've gone in the last 100 years or 200, 300, whatever. It's the Industrial Revolution. It's been great. However, we've gotten sideswiped or sidetracked from what you call, like what I call the toddler mind of the ego, if you will. And now we're growing out of the old model, and it's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of dedication, but it's also fun when we really get into our authentic design, because I think that's why we're here in the first place.
Oh, couldn't agree with you more. And the beauty to me is it's going to include the coal miners,
right. It's not, yeah. It's going to include everybody.
Yeah, the people in poverty.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, it's so inclusive because we are all human beings.
Right.
And you might look, there are human beings I don't like. I prefer not to spend any time with them, right?
Yep.
You can dislike certain human beings, but if you really understand what humanity is about, it's very difficult not to love humanity. I mean, really, is there any species anywhere that can be so destructive and yet can love so fiercely, that's willing to go through anything to get to experience the real practical essence of love in the most simple to the most esoteric manners? We are fiercely loving beings.
Yes.
And we've got a passion at the moment to grow and evolve out of all the collateral damage, to liberate our mind so it can be even more innovative, right? And to empower our bodies so we can all bring out entrepreneurial energies and spirit to play in the world. And that's the way we're going to change things for the better in a profound way.
Beautifully put. So in concluding this dynamic conversation and exploration, and I don't even know if we really got into like the practicalities or or the little nitty gritty, but I think for the right people listening to this, this is the perfect download.
Hey, look, I'm going to be interviewing some really practical, down-to-earth people.
Awesome. Then okay.
But you and I, we're idealists, we're inspirers, whatever we're trendsetters. So
we're surprisingly highly practical. It just takes we just go about it a slightly different way. Exactly.
Look, I'm so grateful for you giving me this time, Ronnie. I know you're very busy, and check out Ronnie's programs and that. I mean, Ronnie is a really unique and powerful individual, and the work that he does, if and when it's right for you, and I say that not to demean it, but to say when the timing's right for you, you couldn't get someone who's more truly passionate at such a young age, relative to me anyway, such a young age to work with. This is a man who's willing to grow and learn and open up and, share his passion and his heart with the world and make a real difference in your life. So I'm more than happy to endorse you on that, Ronnie. And
thank you.
You know, if you're interested in going any further, you know, I do consultations. We have programs, Human Design for Innovators and Entrepreneurs. Feel free to check it out. Feel free to contact me or contact Ronnie and follow this up. But thanks for spending some incredible time with me, Ronnie. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, my pleasure. And just the same sentiments to you too, and everyone listening. I've sent a few clients Christopher's way, and I think for everyone that I work with and the unique way that I go about working with people, the human design element is very important. And I can kind of dabble around with people, and I have a little bit of a perspective on it relative to anyone I talk to, but Christopher's really the leading authority to really that I send my personal clients to really get the download, and then they give it back to me. And Christopher can give it back to me, and I'm like, oh man, okay, now I understand where a little bit clearer about the people I'm working with. So yeah, if anyone's really wanting to get that one-on-one, hands-on human design exploration, I can't think of anyone better than Christopher. So it's an honor for me to be here with you as well.
Thank you, Ronnie. Great. I'll look forward to us working together again sometime.
Yes. Yeah, very soon.
Great. Thank you, man.
Yep. Thank you.